Okay, so the fork is now upside down. It's in my vise. The little soft jaws are gripping the axle boss. And I have a jack stand under it. And the reason for that is because I wanted to put a little tension on the fork. Because when I start to back out this nut, there's nothing holding the cartridge in place. So I just a little bit of tension, not very much. So first thing I'm going to do is take my 14mm Allen socket thing. I'll see if I can just see if I can break the valve loose. It's turning, but I think I need to hit it with the impact. Yeah. So impact. Socket. Make sure it's going lefty-loosey. Just hit it. There it goes. Wow. That just came flying out of there. Okay. Whoop, I lost a little bit of oil. There was a little bit of oil in there. I lost a little bit. Not much. Anyway, there's my base valve. Let me reposition everything. Stand by. Okay, so I've set the fork aside. Here's my base valve. Again, remember that the point of this exercise is to see if you can take out the base valve and revalve hair or something stuck in there. And revalve the fork without having to take it apart. And, well, so far we can at least take the base valve out. So, chuck it in the soft jaws, right? Nice and snug. And I'll take my, what is this, half inch? Half inch. The nut that comes from Racetech is, the threads are metric, but the wrenching portion, well, half inch is 13mm, so it could be 13mm also. Anyway, we're going to back off this nut. And it is a little sticky to come off because that's the thread locker that's on there. If you'll recall, one of my questions in the last video was about how the I'm not satisfied with how that's in the vise. Let me fix this for a second. Oh, my little soft jaws weren't correctly cranked in there. Anyhow, in the last video, one of my questions was how the thread locker works in oil, and I looked on the website and it said it was anaerobic and all that stuff, which means it doesn't need air to cure. Which is apparently true because this nut was really hard to get off there. So we'll take that off, set it aside. I'm having some trouble with this. There we go. There's a little bit of thread locker residue on here. Sorry for the leaning in front of the camera like that. We'll clean that off. This is the cupped washer and the spring. Just set that over here. And here's the check valve and the spacer and the gold valve. We'll just pull the check valve and spacer and gold valve off as one unit. One unit. Set it over here. And here we have my valve stack. And it's very hard to see, but the way I have, this is what I suspected. Let me see if I can show you in a little bit better way. Where is it? It's kind of oily, so it's a little bit hard to see. This right here is the actual valve stack. These are the spacers I put in there. So as you can see, this valve stack could come into contact with these spacers, and that would create a, you know, like a high-speed damping situation for me. So I'm going to take the valve stack and the spacers, everything off as one, and the base plate. There's the base plate. So I'm just going to take the whole mess off of here, the whole thing, and I'm going to keep the stack intact. I'm going to remove the spacers, these are my spacers, and keep the base plate intact. So So put the base plate back on. Now, I'm actually at this point going to count my shims just to make sure that I have it right. So there are 10 shims in there. So this is, the shim stack is right. That's just me double checking my work. Putting them all back in the order that they came. I'm not going to go into this in this video because, well, I went into it in the other video. So put the shim stack back on the little base valve thing with the smallest shim facing the base plate, the biggest shim facing up, and we'll put our gold valve and the check valve thing on. In the order, this is in the order that came out, making sure that the check valve works. And put the spring and the cup-shaped washer back on. There's a little piece of thread lock residue on there. I don't know if you can see that. I want to make sure that gets cleaned off of there and off your fingers. Okay, that all goes together. And now we are going to put the spacers back in. And the spacer's only job is to take up space. Right? Right. Okay. So put the spacers on top of the cupped washer. And I'm going to take this, this is the original, well, this is the Race Tech nut. Hit it with some carb cleaner. I don't know the difference between carb cleaner and brake cleaner. And I'm also going to clean off this threaded portion, being careful not to wreck it. And one thing I noticed about my previous stack was that when I put the thread locker in there, the red thread locker, I used so much that cupped washer under there was kind of stuck on the shaft, and we don't want that. There's some foreign matter there. So we're just going to put just a touch, just a little bit, dab'll do ya, on here. Just a little bit. I think that's actually that may be a little bit too much already, but we'll thread this on here. We'll just snug it up with my little ratchet here. Make sure that the check valve moves and that the piston does not. And we'll torque it to 40, what was it? 5, 6, 7, 8, 48 inch-pounds. There's 48 inch-pounds. Okay, we've revalved it. Okay, I put the spacers in the right place so that they will not participate in the damping. And let's see if we can put it all back together. Stand by. Okay, there's my fork and my little rig there. I've got the jack stand under it again to put a little bit of tension on it. Just a little bit, not a lot, a little bit. And we have our base valve that we've fixed, revalved. We've done it hopefully properly. I'm just going to stick it in here. I'm not going to hit it with the gun right away. I'm going to put it on, at least get it started by hand. Okay? Maybe I'll even just use the socket instead of the wrench. I just don't want to bang up those threads. See, it's threading in quite nicely. I didn't have to fight it at all. So I'm going to put a little torque on it with the wrench, with the ratchet. I think it might be spinning in there. Okay, so now we'll hit it with the impact. Using my lighter gun, make sure it's going the right way, and just give it a touch. And we'll see if that did anything. like to see it a little bit tighter than that. Make sure my compressor's on. Oh, the compressor's. Oh, it's on, all right. Let me hit it one more time with the impact. There we go. Nice and tight. Okay, well, that's it. We put the springs in, put the fork back together, revalved it without taking the fork out. Now we did lose a little bit of oil, if you recall. Just a little bit. Let me put this camera. There we go. We did lose. I'm just admiring my look. Well, we did lose a little bit of oil out of the forks, but not much, and quite frankly, I'm not sure I would even notice. But anyhow, forks back together. We got new springs in there. Got a new valve in there. I will put more torque on this when I put the forks into the triple clamp to put the bike back together. I'm not going to film that part because no one wants to see that. Anyhow, that's it, man. We're finished. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the shock.